We are going to take our modeling skills a bit further and do a more complex model together. We're going to use this picture of a building as our reference, and we're going to actually use real modeling techniques that will help you during the semester. We're going to add faces and extrude faces and add edges to this model, and this will take the last lesson that simply basically was stacking shapes on top of each other to a more professional workflow in which we're going to do today. We're also going to learn more about file structure and organizing our files. So let's get started. Go ahead and open up Maya, and I'll give it a second here to open up. Before we really start with the modeling process, we're going to set up our file structure. So to do that, what we're going to need to do is create a couple files here. So once everything loads, we're going to do File, Project Window, and we're going to click New, and we're going to call this Building Lesson. And we're going to, this is going to create a folder called Building Lesson, and we're going to put that folder on our desktop, and we're going to hit Accept. What this does is actually builds us a folder with all of those elements in it. And this is great. So in the folder, you can see we have, for instance, scenes where our file will be kept. We have source images, which we should go ahead and drag that building to your source images. So once I have that, I'm going to do File, Set Project, and we're going to set it to Building Lesson, and then we're going to save. And when we hit Command S for save, you'll notice it goes into Building Lesson Scenes. We have two different ways to save a Maya file, a Maya ASCII or a Maya binary. For the Maya ASCII is typically for props, and a Maya binary I use typically for overall scenes. So let's go ahead and use an MA file extension, and we're going to type start here and hit Save As. All right, now whenever you need to, and there's our student version, whenever we need to redo a project, or if we want to switch from one project to another project and we have different folders, we can simply set the project before we start working on it, and it will save automatically to that folder. All right, let's go ahead and hit our spacebar and go to our orthographic view, and let's place our image plane here on the front view. So I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go to the word Image Plane and import image. Once I do that, it will go straight to source images because I've already set my folder, and I'm going to double click and load the picture of the house. Now after hitting spacebar, in this case I don't really want to model on top of this. I just want it kind of in the background so I can see it and I can use it as a visual reference. So I'm going to move it out of the way using my W key and then my R key to scale it. With it highlighted, I'm going to go to my channel box, and I'm going to click on the Add New Object button. That's my visibility, and I'm going to click in this blank box until I get the letter R. So it will say VPR, and this now, what that does is basically locks it. It makes it restricted so I can't use it. All right, now imagine if I had a really nice straight on view of this. I could actually use this as a reference as I molded to mold right on top of the object itself. All right. Now we know this object's based off of a cube. So let's go ahead and start with our cube. Now our cube currently does not have enough subdivisions to really work with what we need. So instead of us adding those in our channel box, which we learned about a while ago down here, we're going to go ahead and add those later on using tools. So I'm going to get the basic height and shape of my house, and now I'm going to explore really what's going on. I have a peaked roof, and I currently can't peak this. Even if I tried, I can't hit W on an edge and move it up. It doesn't really do what I want. I have these chimneys that I will have to use, but the roof isn't flat. It's peaked on top and then it goes into a chimney. So I'm kind of dissecting how many edges I need, and I'm going to turn my wireframe on shading on. Let's go ahead and let's just start with the roof itself. So let's go to face mode, click on a face, and we're going to use our tools. We're going to go to Mesh Tools, and we're going to go to, Edit Mesh, Extrude. All right, and I'm going to extrude that up, and that's going to be roughly where my roof's going to sit. I'm going to right click and go to Object Mode and click Away. That's very important. All right. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to add an edge to create this piece here, because right now if I extrude this up again, it will be the whole roof. So if I have an edge selected, there's a lot we can do in here, but one of the tools we want to use is our multi-cut tool. And I'm using flyout menus there. I'll show you those in a few seconds. But let's go to where it's actually at. So let's go to Mesh Tools, Multi-Cut, and I'm going to hold my Control key down here. And actually, let's do it in front mode so we can kind of have a little bit more say here. And let's put an edge loop in. And I'm not on my tool, that's why. There it is. So I'll hold the Control key. And let's go back to front mode because it's exactly where I want to be. And we will do that roughly equal. All right. Let's add another edge loop on the top. And let's make sure we keep everything even using our grids. So now, that looks pretty good. Let's put one right in the middle here. You can maybe see where I'm going with this. These are going to hit spacebar to get out. These are going to be my chimneys, and then my roof peak will be right here. So let's extrude again, but this time let's do more than one face. So I'm going to go to face mode and click with holding my shift key down all the faces I want to pull upward. Then I'm going to go to my Edit Mesh Extrude, or since I have them selected, I can actually hold my Shift key down and do, while holding Shift, go to Extrude Face. It's a little hotkey for you. I'm going to hit this little circle here, which will center my pivot, and I'm going to pull that up, and that will do it uniformly, which is really nice. Now, I can start playing with my shape. So I need to peak this roof. So I want these sides to kind of remain constant and the rest of them to go up. So I'm going to go to my front view and I'm going to right click and go to vertex and highlight these vertices. Go back, make sure I have both sides selected, and hit W in my front view and pull it up. Look at that, we're getting the shape of the house. All right, now almost there. This roof is not flat at the top, so I'm going to go to my edge and I'm going to pull my edge to a nice peak, and I got to make sure that everything kind of matches it. That's looking pretty good. Looks like the space is pretty uniform here. So that is a very good method to do this. Now we can even scale these in just slightly if we want to have that little taper that's happening there. But now we have a pretty solid roof setting. Now at the top of our roof it looks like there's another extrusion. So I'm going to grab those faces again, holding shift to add to them, making sure I only have those faces, and I'm going to hold my shift key again and right click and hold extrude edge, and I'm going to scale up, and that looks pretty good actually. Click away. So we just kind of pulled our extrusion up a little bit, and then we're going to extrude outward on each one of these. So I'm going to grab just around the edges, and make sure, again, I'm using my Alt key as I go. We'll do the extrude key, and maybe we'll scale outward. Does that look good? Are we getting, we're getting a little bending in the middle. Got to be careful there. Let's center it. Let's see if that helps. Otherwise, we may need to do them separately. And sometimes that happens. So I'm going to hit Command Z, and let's go ahead and let's do these each side separate. So make sure you Command Z outward, and then we can do our Shift, extrude face. There we go. That's what I want right there. Cool. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, huh? Get that going very, very smoothly and symmetrically. So you can see our our process really only involves a few tools. And if you use your shift technique and right click, you can actually get those tools relatively quickly, I think. So, just be very patient with what you're doing, and you'll end up with a pretty decent result. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and work on some of the bigger structures. For instance, this structure down here. So I know that structure isn't very tall, so I'm going to get my multi-cut tool again. And to do that, I simply select an edge, and I hold my shift key and go to multi-cut. I'll hold my my control key down, and I'll make an edge loop around the object. This spot right here, and things work out sometimes in weird ways, but this spot right here looks perfect for that. So I'll select it in face mode, hold my shift key, right click and go to extrude, and I will pull that out and start modeling this process. So you can see it's relatively easy, and I'm going to move my grid. I'm going to just unclick my grid so you guys can see better. It becomes relatively easy to create shapes that are, smooth and nice. We get to a point though where we're going to have to start being careful though to make sure we only have 4 and 3-sided faces. So for instance, if I get my multi-cut tool, and if I go ahead and decide to cut, let me select this real quick, the whole shape. If I decide to do an edge loop around everything here, that's all fine and dandy, but we got to make sure that we're cutting it. Actually, I'm almost in half there. There we go. Can't seem to get the center. There it is. We want to make sure that we're cutting it into which we can have those clean shapes. So we only want 4-sided or 3-sided shapes. And sometimes I'll even take it a step further, and I'll go and I'll hit return, and I'll kind of triangulate off some of these areas. At this point, I can go in and hit W and maybe nudge these around a little bit, because I'm not too fond of it not being exactly in the center. There we go. It's neat. I can even grab these here. And you'll notice sometimes I always look around to see what I'm grabbing. If you hold the control key, it will actually deselect areas. So you can see if you don't want to select specific areas, you can deselect them. And my scale key, I'll straighten those up a little bit. There we go. Looks good. All right, now what I don't want to do, because this is important, just as important. There's a door here on this. I don't want to simply go to my model and just say, oh, I'm going to just make a door. As soon as I do this and hit enter, this becomes an n-gon. Why is it an n-gon? Because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. 5-sided shapes or more are n-gons, and that becomes a hassle. So if you're going to do this, just make sure that you understand that you need to make them triangles, even though this is an ugly way to do it for your topology, but you need to triangle the option off. What some people will do is actually they'll do something like this, in which now you have a nice triangle. All right, so keep that in mind as you go. And the same thing goes with these other elements. So again, if you're gonna build these, just make sure that you do them in a proper way, and you kind of have that idea to triangle it off. So you could even we can even build it off this, and then we can triangle it back here. Maya's going to calculate these in a smoother way. Oops. Get to it. There we go. And then now, with my really crooked door, because I'm really trying to make this video not 40 minutes long for you, Shift, extrude face, center the pivot, pull it back in, maybe scale it in a little bit, maybe delete these little faces down here, maybe delete those. Sometimes you don't need the bottom to your model. And There you go. So we're starting to get our shape. Pretty cool. So the same thing goes with the windows. Again, we can use our multi-cut tool and the control key and kind of figure out where our window shapes are, and then build in the edge loops for the windows like so. We can grab the multiple windows, and I'm just, again, now I'm not even looking at the picture, I'm just kind of showing you how to do a window. Hold shift, go to extrude face, center those pivots, pull them in. Check that out. Now we have some windows. So kind of a pretty neat process. At this point, what I typically would do is maybe add the window seals as separate objects. So instead of extruding them out, I would kind of just get another shape and I would do something like this where it's it's a little window seal, just to add some depth to the piece without extruding too much. But hopefully that gives you a good idea of what to do here, and go ahead and continue to model this, and we'll work with the next exercise on even getting better with our modeling skills. Thanks, guys.